When would you say was your last fashion emergency at work?
My last fashion emergency?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm dealing with a fashion emergency every day. Yeah.
Welcome to the very first episode of Stories in Style. I'm Atiba Newsome, and I couldn't think of a better way to start this journey than by sitting down with someone who's been a mentor, a friend, and a huge influence on my career. He isn't just a part of my story, he's actually one of the people who helped write it. For the past 3 decades, he's been behind some of the most iconic moments in fashion. Welcome, my bestie, Mr. Eric Archibald. I feel like in every stylist career, like they have this one look that they feel solidifies them as a stylist, like that one look where you're like, okay, I've made it. You know, for me, it was when I did Amerie for the cover of Love and Life, when I put her in a white Dolce outfit. Eric, what look do you feel like solidified you as a stylist? Do you have one?
I would say Aaliyah at the VMAs in the Kabami.
Oh, definitely, without a doubt. Did you see that they're still making that dress? Tyler wore it recently. Did you see the blue and black version?
I saw all the other colors that have been reimagined and so many people have worn it. It had really transcend time. I remember there was, I think we pulled 2 to 3 different versions to show Aaliyah that night at Four Seasons Hotel.
Yeah.
Her brother and I decided on the yellow.
That dress definitely made an impact. Got to live on. Like, after we're dead and gone, these looks will still live on. They'll still be out there on social media.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Did you ever think about that?
I never really think of the work I do. I know it's a big deal, and I know I'm blessed and unfortunate to do this work. But I kind of draw a blank and live in the moment. But when I see things being reimagined, things being redone that I've done, when people like post videos of when people talk about Amerie, you know, of the video we shot in Brooklyn.
Oh yeah.
How someone DM'd me yesterday and said that video is the story of their life. They were in high school. You know, when I see kids still, you know, showing me pictures from their high school prom in kufis and durags, I was like, wow.
It's a circle. Everything comes back around, from polka dots, you know, to stripes and bell bottoms and tight jeans. Like it's just a never-ending circle. So things that we did will come back around in 10 to 20 years.
It always does. It always does. And I'm always a little taken back when someone asks me about something I did, and they're always like, "You did that. You're an icon. You did your icon." I just, for me and for us, I can speak for us because we all work together. We thought of like live in the moment. It's like when we got the award from Claire and Lisa at Fashion Bomb Daily, and you jumped on the mic and you started rolling off all the things that we have done, and most of it I don't remember.
Recently, you worked with Amerie again at Coachella, right?
Just recently this week, yeah.
How did that go?
It was great. Money Long invited her to perform with her, and she went to rehearsal and called me later on that evening and said that there's only one person that she's going to do this, and it was me, you know. And she was like, I just can't just go up there and just be in any old thing. And staying in my head, I really don't have time to do this because I have Meg stuff to do. I have dress rehearsals, you know. We're presenting new costumes and building new costumes, but somehow with the help of an amazing team and my one of my dearest friends, Maisha Long, who's an incredible stylist also, we were able to go out and shop for things. We both pull things together, and as you can see, the end result.
So I saw you put her in a full denim look. Tell me about that look.
It was a pair of diesel shorts from the latest spring-summer collection. Top that was pieced together by snaps. We had an amazing tailor. Cool pair of boots that we found at the Webster here at the Beverly Center, and I was not there for the fitting, so when I saw the look, I thought it was brilliant. Earlier in our conversation the night before that she would possibly want to wear gold because Money Long dancers were wearing gold, and I conveyed to her and Maisha that I don't think that she should match the dancers because she, you know, she's not part of Money Long set, but she's like an added plus to it, so she should kind of be herself.
Yeah.
She's been doing this over 25 years, and I didn't feel like she needed to fit into a certain picture. She should have had her own style. I just wanted to appear cool, just young and fresh. And I think we nailed that.
Definitely. I agree. How long has it been since you guys have worked together? How many years?
I was her first stylist. It's over 20-something years, 25 years plus. I think Tom Ford was still at Saint Laurent and Gucci.
What a way to gauge the timeline.
Every time I engage in my mind is what I wore to the club back in the day, or what a designer was doing in that period. I'm constantly, mulling over what I have in my closets and what I wore in that club in 96 and 97, the music. That's the way I rate time in my head.
If you weren't a stylist, what other profession do you think you would be doing?
I always thought I was going to be a flight attendant.
What?
Yeah. I mean, when I was younger, growing up in the village in Antigua, one of my aunts who lived up the block, it wasn't really a block. It was like 2 steps away from my house. Across the street, you had this old car in the back of our yard. Me and my brother Neil would always pretend it was a plane. And he was a pilot, and he became a pilot. I was always a flight attendant with a whole bunch of baggage, I mean, I'm not a flight attendant, but I always have a whole bunch of baggage.
So you're telling me that you wanted to be a flight attendant?
Yeah.
Your brother Neil wanted to be a pilot.
Yeah.
He actually became a pilot, and you essentially became a flight attendant because you're on the plane every other week, and you always have luggage. Yeah. So everything kind of worked itself out, right?
Yeah, and I am always pretending that I get up and help the flight attendants who need my help.
I love that. You know what I always wanted to ask you? How was it growing up in Antigua as a young boy where, growing up anywhere that young is tough, going through that phase, but on an island is even tougher. So, did you have other gay friends to hang out with? What was that like for you?
Growing up as a gay young boy was tough, but I was surrounded by a bunch of females that protected me. Mainly my cousin Kathy would always say, "Leave him alone." The girls I went to school was like, "Leave him alone, leave him alone," but it was not kind. I didn't have any other gay friends that I knew of. I just had a whole bunch of girlfriends, who I hung out with, and I had freedom to really express myself when it came to my friends. I would often put on pageants. My cousin Karen reminded me every time I saw her that I had cut her eyebrows off, saying that I was having a pageant. Her mother still talks to me about it.
Wait, you were doing her makeup or something?
I was doing everything. I was doing makeup. I was getting girls dressed. I was telling them what to wear, what not to wear. My cousins created a space for me where I could just be with them. I played dollhouse every day. I had a Barbie. I couldn't have that at my house. My Aunt Mary's house, I had the freedom to play with my cousin Gail and Kim, and they were just like, I would just play with them. There were 2 girls, and then there was me. I mean, you've been at Giga. They've coined me the new Erica in the village. Lady Erica.
Lady Erica. I love it.
Yeah. Meg calls me that now, but I'm like, yo, I've already called Erica. My brother Edward would call me Erica Kane. I had a quick mouth. Anybody talked and clapped to me, I was able to tell them off. But when I went home, there was comfort. No one bothered me or said anything to me. It was always people on the street or people in the neighborhood that would say mean and crude things. And of course, the boys in school. But they were my army of girls who were like, back off, leave me alone.
Black women are always saving the day. I love it.
Always.
Always.
And they've saved me. At one point, I thought I was a singer.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
How old were you at this point?
I was young. I was like 8, 9. Talking about them singing. I was singing. And they were like, "Are you going to sing for me?" Yeah. So I always had a love for music, a love for pop music, a love for pop culture.
So who or what was your earliest style influence?
My earliest style influence really came from watching my grandma getting ready for church on Sundays. My mom, through travel at a very young age, my mom and grandma both relocated to the Virgin Islands. And I would love when they get ready to travel. And somehow it always seemed like they would travel at night. And I would always stay up to just see what they were talking about and just the excitement. My mom and her sisters and grandma, conversation they would have about what they were wearing and what they were doing. And I was always inspired by just the hair, the makeup, them talking about who's going to wear the highest heel. And it was always I would always sit in the corner and just like, I was always so excited by clothing and the movement of it, seeing the way they wore clothes and seeing how overcome I was by the way they wore clothes.
So you weren't the only person in your family who had a sense of style?
No. My family loves fashion. Caribbean people in a whole love fashion. They loved the way my mom dressed my sisters and mainly it was church on Sunday or Sunday school, the stockings, to the way they did their hair and what they had in their hair. It was so inspiring just sitting here thinking about it,
All the years I've known you, you go to Carnival every year in Antigua. I've gone with you a few times. Did Carnival have a big influence on your sense of style?
Everyone who knows me knows that I love Carnival. Of course, had a great influence on my style. At a young age, there was Children Carnival, Adult Carnival, and Last Day of Carnival, which is called The Last Lap. My mother never took us to Children Carnival because she knew that would have been a 3-outfit thing,
Yeah.
So she saved the best for last, which would be the Adult Carnival. And the last lap was when all the troops and groups get together. Whatever we miss in Children's Carnival, we'll get to see it.
Okay.
Me and my 2 younger brothers had matching outfits. My sister had matching outfits, And we would get to sit, I don't remember the name of the hill, and watch the troops and the groups as they go by. And I always wondered, how were these costumes moving with such life? Because my mother, she was so overprotected. She would never have us standing close to the road,
Mm-hmm.
So we'd have to look over everyone, looking at the troops and the groups. How were these things moving? Who was moving them? But it was so infectious with the music.
It's so orchestrated. It's a really, really big deal. You guys had the best seats in the house, it sounds like.
And it was so powerful. And it's the same way I view going to a fashion show and how music is so important, when it comes to designers putting on a show. From an earlier age, for me, that was Carnival. And up to this day, I still, where to find me every Monday and Tuesday in August over the last 10 years. My dad also was just like, we would say, snazzy, your island boy, you know what that is. He was a sharp dresser and he was very clean. He took note of everything, what he did, how clean his socks was, how shine his shoes was. And Dad, he set that standard from a young age for me, Cleanliness is next to godliness. It's all the way you present yourself. It's how you shake someone's hand when you walk into a room. You look them in the eye, And for me, that's where tailoring comes in. My mom was more like the style icon for me. I have never seen anyone wear black lipstick. Mm-hmm. And she showed up one day wearing black lipstick with this amazing bun on the top of her head, with these green gabardine pants. I don't remember the top, but I was sitting in the backyard and I was like, happy in my heart to see that. I was a very young boy, And
How old?
I was young. I must have been like 10 years old or so.
Wow.
For me, dressing up on Sunday in my, these shirts, in the Latin call them differently. We in the Caribbean call them shirt jack. It was the shirts with like the 4 pockets.
Okay.
Our clothes would just like tailored and fit beautifully. And I would always hang out with, I wasn't hanging out with my brothers then. I would always ditch my brothers to go hang out with my girlfriends. And sometimes I found myself would always direct what my friends were wearing.
Did television ever influence you, like watching music videos or anything like that?
Later on in life, when I moved to the Virgin Island and I discovered MTV, every time I got a chance to put on MTV, I would watch it. And I discovered Whitney Houston, The Greatest Love of All, or just still one of my favorite songs that would wake me up in the morning. And my brothers would tell stories about how I would be sitting in the living room singing Great Up the Ball, and they would shut up.
I remember her outfit from that video.
I
with
was
the black leather jacket with the leggings.
She walks on stage
and the white
exactly,
gown,
the earrings
That
and the
was
white
major.
dress. Yeah. And they would scream, shut up. And I would sing louder. You know? You know, taking in all these different influences and watching music videos. I now was obsessed with music and Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie. And my mom loved listening to Kenny Rogers.
Legend.
I'll be going to school in the morning and she'd be listening to Kenny Rogers, you know? And I never knew at the time, I always knew I loved dressing up and going out, but I never knew at the time there was a career in fashion to be had until I met Michael Kenneth Williams. But I learned, you know, and I studied, you know, and there was also a show called Style with Elsa Clench on CNN on Saturdays. And my dad used to let me watch it before they watched college football on Saturdays. So I would get to see Style with Elsa Clench, and she would report on the different collections from Paris. Whether it's Jean Paul Gaultier, Chanel, they report. CNN on a Saturday, you know where to find me. It was Style with Elsa Clench. And that's how I learned a lot about fashion and silhouette and designers. And it's not lost on me today to still read the review to see what inspired the designer. And I still do a lot of that. I'm always chewing in on the review, on the inspiration of where it comes from. And I take that to my job also. You know, I take that type of thinking to my job. Everything starts with an inspiration. And what a lot of people don't know is us as creatives, we start with a concept. And that concept is approved by everyone. You know? It's not a walk in the park. You know, you're actually living in this space where you have to make sure that the bra strap is Velcroed and the mic pack is sewn and it's the right color. You know, it's a lot more than a pretty dress.
When would you say was your last fashion emergency at work?
My last fashion emergency?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm dealing with a fashion emergency every day. You know, they're constantly wardrobe malfunctions. One just happened at Coachella this week.
Really?
Building costume, you really have to really dive into how many hook and eyes you're going to add and extend straps and add Velcro, you know, so it holds. Or even sometimes adding an extra piece of string to tie it.
Yeah, you need reinforcements.
You just need many reinforcements. It's like costumes are not, and you have to rehearse it. You have to rehearse in it so you know it holds. You know, when you have someone dancing and rolling around on stage and splitting and twerking and doing all the things, the clothes have to, you know, live on, and they have to live on for the next show. But wardrobe constantly being malfunctioned, but the audience don't know. You know, and they're constantly being reinforced after every show. You know how a costume should live on stage. I've worked with Marnie Sanafante on Formation and her and Beyonce on the Super Bowl performances. And through that and through the show Legendary, being the designer for Talent, you know, for the first season and doing the judges for the second and third season, creating costumes and knowing that costume needs to live in a space where they don't fall apart, you know? And after every show, every costume needs to be repaired. The zipping may need changing. They may be ripped in the mesh. There may be beads that need to replace. And it's a true testament of the talent. Meg had always said to me, I want to rehearse in my costume, but I just don't want to be put on stage in my costume. I need to live in it. I need to feel it. And she did that.
I remember the Sweetest Pie video, right? Just the way you navigated all those costumes, how she was throwing costumes at you. Working with Meg in these last minute costumes, how do you make that happen?
Working with Meg is, how do I put this? It's challenging in the most exciting way because she really pushes you to do your best. And it really takes me back to where I really began, you know, working with Hype Williams. And, you know, June would say, we have a video tomorrow. I'm in 2 days, and we'd have to create costumes. We had to make it happen. There's nothing different. I think where I started really prepared me for moments like this, working with the artists like man. Artists like this only comes around once a generation. And to be able to create costumes for someone who not only pushes you to be your best, but also is so creative and want to be different. And it's important, as bluntly I can say this, is like, she pays for what she wants. She pays for it. She wants the best. And when you have that type of creative freedom to call on the best, to build what you want, and then you surround yourself with, you know, creatives who, I think there's a misconception of like, you can do it on your own. No one can ever do it on their own. I cannot do it on my own. I trust the people who I hire vision. I trust the designers when I give them ideas to bring me back something bigger than I've dreamed of. To have that creative freedom, to have the expense budget to do it really helps a lot. Sweetest Pie video was challenging at the least. But, you know, everything we do at Meg is challenging at the least. We're constantly building costumes as we go. We're building costumes in the moment. She's constantly looking at me saying, and if it's not right, she'll go, Erica, like I'm some sort of genie in a bottle. I'm supposed to fix it. And somehow, with the grace of God, and just talent and just patience, and lots of yoga. Lots of yoga.
You fix it.
I fix it. I feel like I'm a fixer.
Thanks for tuning in to the very first episode of Stories in Style. Next week, we're back with more with Eric Archibald. Trust me, you don't want to miss the story he's about to tell. We're just getting started. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.